Rishan Patil, who regularly plays with his mother and loves to dance, has a shocking story to tell. In an effort to financially protect their autistic son, his parents started the process by buying a health cover for him. But little did they know that they will have to run from pillar to post to get medical insurance for their son. The multiple insurance companies they approached denied their son a policy.
We applied to several, and in fact most of all the private insurance companies, including Max, Bajaj, etc. And we were told that they do not cover children with mental, or actually children, adults, anyone with mental disorders, and autism falls within that bracket. So I asked them why, what happened, what is the reason? So they said they have some underwriting issues.
When Mirror Now got in touch with both Max Bupa Life Insurance and Bajaj Allianz, their official statement said that while most aspects of physical health are covered by health insurers in India, mental health is excluded from the purview of retail health insurance coverage at present. And it is not just this particular case. Even in cases where parents are ready to pay higher premium, the medical insurance companies deny to cover the physical ailments. Such is the case with 17-year-old Usaid Sheikh.
I was ready to have a separate insurance for him, even if it's not in the family floater. Because I feel even if I'm okay with them not covering any therapy costs, I never wanted that. But health insurance is a basic right of anyone. So what if, God forbid, anytime, he has any health problems and he needs it?
When we reached out to Star Health, the company responded saying that autism and the associated complications act as an additional load, and that has to be factored into the rating of risks. Talking specifically about Fatima's incident, Star Health Insurance stated that the insurance was cancelled because Fatima failed to mention adverse medical history.
I had a patient who was operated for an abdominal pain, appendicitis. Because she was taking medications on depression, her claim of 70,000 was denied. Now, any depressed person can get a physical illness, and the claim for the physical illness was also denied because she was taking medication for depression.
Insurance companies in India are yet to come up with policies that cater to the differently abled, a discrepancy that Mirror Now also brought to the notice of the IRDA. However, despite repeated attempts, the Apex Authority of Insurance did not comment on any of our queries. This is Isha Shah for Mirror Now.
Good evening, you're watching the Urban Debate in Mirror Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. We're stepping away from the usual news today to take a look at our special focus. We're looking at health insurance, and this is just one such story. The fact that people with any sort of differently abled situation, whether mentally and being treated for any sort of mental situation, do not get health insurance in our country. But it's not just that. Health insurance is tremendously complicated for the average Indian. Senior citizens, for example, buy senior citizen policies and then struggle to make claims. A lot of times, the average Indian doesn't trust a health insurance policy. Why is health insurance so complicated, and why is it that these parents aren't able to insure their children? The question is very simple. If someone is born with autism, shouldn't a health insurance company be open to giving them health insurance for an appendicitis, for example? How are the two things related? If you have questions for us, and we have some experts in the studio tonight about health insurance, anything to do with health insurance, pick up the phone and call us. Our phone number is at the bottom of your screen, and you can also reach us on invol.in. The idea here is to help everyone understand this product and, of course, find out why the fine print is as heavy as it is, and why is health insurance so complicated for the average Indian. Joining me in the studio is Satish Kataria. He's a parent who will share his story. Gajendra Katari, CEO of Urtica Wealth Management. Kalpesh Asher is a certified financial planner. Balwant Jain is a personal finance expert, and I've been told by several people that he understands health insurance better than most others. We'll also have Anand Patwardhan, who's a consumer court advocate, a very established lawyer, and Sriram Khanna of the Consumer Voice, who will join us through the course of this conversation. But I'm going to start with Satish. Satish, as a parent, what is the challenge you faced with health insurance so far?
So I think we have faced issues with almost 2 or 3 insurances, right? So first one was when we had taken a health insurance with some company and continuously paid them insurance premium for 3 years. At the time when I required the money and my child had to go for some corrective surgery, I was denied the claim, saying that you had not made the proper claims in the initial stages, and hence we would not be able to pay for the claim.
You not made the proper disclosures?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was the reason which was given to me. And second time, at that time, I had no other option. And second time when I again applied and wanted to apply for him, we had a long chat with the underwriter. I clearly told him that this part of his health doesn't affect anything else, and everything else is normal. So I'm only taking health insurance only for any other emergency. Even despite that, I was given a message by the underwriter that you will not be, for him the insurance will not be applicable, but you can take insurance for your wife who's normal, but for your kid insurance will not be given to you. So that's the problem. I understand. I'm even willing to go to a situation that you do not cover the medical costs cover to autism or cover to the mental problem, but at least cover the insurance for any other health emergencies. But that is something which was denied to me.
Balwant Jain, do you see this as discriminatory? Is there a reason why insurance companies are allowed to do this?
So basically the insurance companies are in the business to earn profit, so they do not want to take the risk.
No, but a child who has autism, for example, should be able to claim for a broken leg if he falls down and fractures his foot. It has nothing to do with his disability.
So the IRDA should do something about it, but I would like to add something about this child suffering from autism. The National Trust has got a product called Niramaya, which covers, which is group insurance taken with ICICI Lombard, and some of the state governments are sponsoring this insurance free of cost to the people who are below the poverty line. Exactly. This is available for everybody.
But it's very limiting. So it's limiting. You have to be below a certain income bracket
so we had
to be able to
applied for Niramaya, but again our case was rejected because we were told that we are not falling under poverty line. So if I'm a middle class family and I do not fall in that that underprivileged category, even Niramaya is not valid for me.
So as I understand, I've studied the insurance policy, I've written about it as well. So for the people who are below the poverty line, the premium is concessional, but they cannot refuse this policy to anybody, as I understand. And this policy even covers corrective surgery also and outpatient costs also, which is normally not covered in other health insurance policy.
Satish, has that been your experience?
But practically, I was saying, because even though my physiotherapist, and the doctor who actually did the operation on my child, he also mentioned to me that go for Niramaya, and even I will recommend your case. But even then, the Niramaya officials said that we cannot take your case ahead because you're not falling in that under poverty line.
Right, let me bring in the other voices on the panel. Kalpesh, Asher, I want to ask you this, and it's not just Satish and his family or his child. We get, and the reason why we're taking this up, viewers, is because we get phone calls and emails from people from across the country. And when those phone calls then start to echo the same problem, we decide to take it up. Now, one of the things that keep popping up is health insurance. The fact that we get emails from people who say we've paid the insurance policy for years, and then when we finally claim, there was some reason or the other why we were denied. Why does that happen? Is it because customers are not understanding policies, or because, like Balwant Jain said, there's a profit margin to be considered?
I would probably, not directly pin the blame, but the agents probably who are trying to sell the policies, they haven't made all the disclosures to their prospective clients in clarity. I think every point should be explained to the person who's taking the policy, all the pros, the cons which go into a policy, and nothing should be left, I think, in the dark before the person who wishes to make the claim signs on the dotted line. So that is one part on the thing. Everybody seems to be in a hurry to close the deal and just get on with it. Now, even as we are probably, trying to get as much awareness into the fraternity, through the fraternity into the clients, that as much as health insurance is a must,
So, but
they just probably just want to scratch the surface and finish it off, because the problem lies and the devil lies in the details, and that is where the insurance companies try to maximize the rejections or the claims as and when they prop up. So really it's a two-sided issue, and it's the prerogative of the agents to sit down, be more responsible while the form is being filled up, and get the true disclosures out from the prospective insurance people who want to sign up for that. So I would just say it starts from awareness of the product, and then the people who are also taking the policies need to be more candid about the whole thing, and rather than concealing it and just trying to say that we wanted an health insurance, we took it. Even they don't bother to see is the amount sufficient which they have taken or no. So it's a dual problem.
So let me bring in Anand Patwardhan. He is the ex-president of the Consumer Court Bar Advocate Association. He joins us now. Mr. Patwardhan, here's the question. If there is a child, a parent whose child has different abilities, whether that's autism or otherwise, we understand now health insurance companies don't give them health insurance at all. They're not insured. Do you see this as fundamentally discriminatory?
In a way, yes. In fact, this whole issue started from 2007. When I think as far as senior citizens are concerned, suddenly the policy, though it was called renewal of the policy, the terms were changed. I think that issue has been taken up by IRDA, and they have already directed all the insurance companies to refund the excess premium that they have collected. I doubt whether that has been done. Now, this kind of discrimination where senior citizens, if it's for senior citizens or for maybe minors, there are certain conditions that are put, which is definitely not what is expected from health insurance as far as Mediclaim is concerned. People don't want to fall sick, but in case they fall sick, they need some kind of a cover to help them, assist them with their medical bills. I think that was the concept, and that is what is expected from Mediclaim insurance policies.
Right. And do you think that in this particular case, there's room here to knock on the doors of the courts?
Certainly, I think, like I said, people have already taken up the issue before the Consumer Fora. They have also taken it up before the IRDA. Some people have taken it up even with the High Court. And there's a good judgment from the Gujarat High Court as well as from the Supreme Court, which says that when the policy is being renewed, there can't be different or change of terms and conditions. That has to be the same terms and conditions with which the policy needs to be renewed. In fact, even the bonus for no claim also gets added, and that's how the policy just gets simply renewed. How can you have different terms and conditions? Particularly as far as senior citizens are concerned, and from 2007 onwards, there was massive increase in the premium. And there were new clauses that were added, which were pre-existing diseases kind of an issue that came up there. Now, people who turn senior citizens over a period of 40, 50, 60 years of age, let us say, there must have been some ailment or the other which has been more than 10, 15 years ago. But I think even those terms are changed to say that comes under pre-existing conditions. I think that is something that has been
I want to bring in Gajendra here. Gajendra, Kalpesh just told us that it's about disclosing everything. It's about knowing all of the fine print and the things that won't be covered. But do you think, honestly, and I'm looking at a list of things that won't be covered in insurance policies, do you think if customers knew all of these things, they'd actually buy the policy?
No way, Faye. In fact, when you want to buy a medical cover, you need to be both a medical specialist as a consumer and plus a lawyer to understand the fine prints, which is written in font size 4 or 5. And these run into pages like 20, 30, So for a common consumer, it's very difficult to comprehend all of these things, and the list is endless. So I think the companies have made it really very complicated. In fact, they should be writing it on their websites as well as on the product, the features of the scheme, and in bold letters what is covered and what is not. But unfortunately, this has not been the case. All the fine prints, all the devil is in the details, and because the complications with health issues can be innumerable. I mean, you can have variety of cases. It's really difficult for common consumers to comprehend. Even at times, advisors fail to understand many products because, again, each product has its own advantages, pros and cons. But there is a case for simplicity for the whole industry to make it a
No, but well, there's a case for simplicity for the whole industry. Let's accept the fact that financial services keep their products complicated so that the average Indian cannot understand it. If the average Indian could understand an average health insurance policy, they would be asking a lot of questions. Right. And that's perhaps a situation that the industry wants to avoid. Shri Gopal is on the phone line from Mumbai. Shri Gopal, go ahead.
Ma'am, I was just watching this program out of curiosity.
Yes.
It is not only the disorders, mental disorders. Many people who are having pre-existing disease are denied cover. Even adult people, like suffering from bypass surgery, angioplasty. Don't you think they need cover for dengue fever also? Why they are not being given cover for that?
Well,
on the grab up, on the saying that underwriting discretion, all the companies have blanket negative list where they say these conditions are not to be taken by field force. Whereas if somebody
but if I'm not mistaken, Shri Gopal, it's a good point you're making, but Balwant Jain, those rules have changed. An insurance company cannot turn you away anymore. They have to offer you a policy.
So, as I understand, IRDA is working on making these terms used in the insurance policy standard, so that there is no scope or rather minimum scope for the insurance company or the TPA to reject the claim. And for TPA, they are incentivized on the basis of the rejections.
Yes.
So
just to explain to our audience what this means. So there's the insurance company that you've actually bought the policy from, and you pay every year. And there's the hospital that you're actually getting your treatment from. In between these two companies, there's something called a TPA, a third-party administrator. The third-party administrator takes the claim from the hospital, processes it, and then passes it on to the insurance company. They're basically like a clerk. They process the file. But they are paid and incentivized for the number of cases that they reject and make sure are not actually paid out, if I'm not mistaken. So, Balwant, so this entire system seems like it's working against the customer.
Obviously. So, as I said, they are incentivized on the basis of the rejections. So, it is against consumers' interest. So, IRDA needs to work on it.
But, so, I mean, let's be honest also,
individual consumer cannot take the insurance company to task.
Our financial regulators have not been very pro-customer either, whether you're looking at the RBI or the IRDA or SEBI. They're normally looking at the rules in the industry, but they haven't looked at anything in a pro-customer sort of way. The other question to ask, and I'll come to Kalpesh with this, is the business of pre-existing illnesses, where when you buy a policy, if you have the slightest problem, like diabetes or high blood pressure, they tend to link everything to that. Oh, you had this problem because you had diabetes, so we are not going to cover it. Because you have blood pressure. So someone who has blood pressure, for example, you can write off a stroke to a heart attack to anything else that they will not cover because it's a pre-existing illness. Does that still happen?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question. And, the thing is that it's a big irony. As much as you say that you need to disclose and be honest about it, especially in health insurance, what happens is as soon as you start disclosing on a candid basis that you want to be clear and don't want any problems in the future when a claim comes up, as soon as the insurance company starts hearing about it, automatically the chances of an outright rejection become very, very strong. And that's a real dichotomy because it doesn't help anyone's cause out here. Neither do they come up to you saying that we will give you an extra loading or something. It's a straight rejection. So where does the poor person go? So it's seriously, the word disclosure here is a joke. So when you say that even if you want to disclose, like what you rightly said, you utter the word that I have a borderline sugar or a borderline diabetes and you've had it. So you can seriously imagine that what all can be linked to it. You can say I've got a normal, somebody diagnosed me with hypertension, say 3 years back. So they will ask for reports which are dated 3 years back and then start the whole story from there. So there are various instances and it is a serious matter which needs to be reviewed by IRDA as to what the person is disclosing, how much can the company relent and then issue the policy.
Mr. Parvalkan?
Well, I think insurance contracts are based on the doctrine of ubera fide, which means you must come out with the truth.
In good faith.
The point here is, invariably, I've come across many such cases where there is a mediclaim, and then what happens is the person is dragged into or taken into the operation theatre. He's already seduced. He's probably already, given prepared for his operation there, and then the doctor asks him, "Have you got any hypertension? Have you got heavy pulse, or have you got any diabetes or sugar problem?" He doesn't know what he's saying, and if he says yes, I've got many instances where the doctors have written having diabetes since last 3 years. He was never under any medication. He was never detected so. But even then, that kind of thing gets written, and then the claim gets rejected on that point. There have been instances where the doctors have written this was a mistake, and we have written this by a mistake. Even then, the claims have been repudiated.
Even then, the claims get. Let me just take another caller. Nirmala is on the phone line from Bangalore. Nirmala, go ahead.
Yeah. I have query, but before that, I want to also share some information.
Yes.
I wish to share the fact that United India Insurance and New India Assurance, both are government agencies.
Yes.
Both of them do give insurance mediclaim to people with mental disorder. I know this for sure.
Okay.
Only thing is, there are cases where the family is willing to pay a higher premium of 10 lakhs and 15 lakhs. Now, premium, some new policy has come in New India Assurance, and their families are willing to take a higher premium, but the company has refused this on the grounds that the person concerned on whose the policy is being taken has a mental disorder. So, they brought down to 3.5 lakhs. Unfortunately, the coverage is low even if the family can afford to pay and want to pay more. That is a very sad thing, but these government insurance agencies do.
They provide insurance. Okay.
This is number one.
Okay. All right. Brian is on the phone line from Mumbai. Brian, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Yes. In fact, I have got 2 children who are under the autism spectrum. One is 7-year-old, one is 9-year-old.
Okay.
Okay. Now, day in and day out, we as parents of autistic children go on to a lot of pains and difficulties in life. Okay. We have children to go through a lot of things, like as in occupation therapy, speech therapies, etc. Now, these insurance agents who come as mere salespeople, they don't even know what is autism, what is the spectrum of autism. They are always in a hurry to sell policies. Okay. So we do not know, as to if something comes up later on in life, okay, what is going to happen? Are we going to be supported? We are a group of parents who share the similar problems. Every day we think, suppose we parents are not there tomorrow, or if something happens to us, what is next for our children?
Right.
You Google on autism and insurance related to autism, you won't find even one company who is supportive of autism in India. Whatever you get to read about is only in the US.
Yeah, we don't study it enough. Yes, we don't study it enough. Mr. Jain, this is an honest problem. We don't, as a country, it's not just the insurance companies, but we don't focus enough on understanding these problems and being able to support the families and the parents who are having to, live through these problems and battle with them every day.
So that said, insurance companies are into the business. So government should do something proactively. And to add to the problem related with the pre-existing disease faced by the consumers, the right time to buy your health insurance is when you actually do not need it. So
you're very young, yes.
This will help you in evading all these pre-existing disease questions. So normally pre-existing diseases are covered after 4 years.
Yes.
So that is a
That's fundamentally unfair though, because insurance actually became available to us 5-10 years ago. So what about someone who's already 40 or 50 years old at that time? invariably have some sort of ailment that would be
So
considered
that
pre-existing.
goes to prove that you are going to insurance company to cover the cost of your medical treatment rather than. So medical insurance is to be taken in anticipation, not in surety of you suffering from any disease. So if this is arbitrage, you are doing an arbitrage. You know that you will have to incur expenses and then you are willing to pay. So as I said, you buy health insurance and you actually do not need it.
Nandita is on the phone line as well from Thiruvananthapuram. Nandita, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Nandita calling from Thiruvananthapuram. As a person who's lived with serious mental illness for over 21 years, what I'd like to say is that as we grow older, we have other issues like dental, neurological issues like, fits and then metabolic syndrome and other issues. But who is going to run around for the insurance? You know, we had, my father was in the forces, and when in our last movement, even for the travel insurance, we couldn't get it. We had to run around so much, and despite that, we couldn't get it. So even if there is an insurance, I doubt it's only for those who've got a lot of paid attendants to run around. Only then you can get the insurance.
That's an excellent point. In fact, Gajendra, I'm going to come to you with this. While insurance agents are around to sell you the policy, there's nobody there to help you actually claim the policy. And it's a painful process. It's not done online. You have to, if someone is claiming it, after hospitalization, they have to physically go to the centers, they have to drop off papers, there's a lot of paperwork, it's very cumbersome. Why is it so complicated? Why are insurance companies making it so hard to be customers of theirs?
Very true. In fact, Faye, there's a big advice gap in our country. Most of the agents are agents of the companies and not the agents of the customer. So they're there to sell policies. I've seen most of the banks, they're very willing to just close the policy, and that relationship manager is not interested in servicing that policy.
That relationship manager will be changed in 6 months and you'll never know where he is after.
Precisely. And he's not going to pick up your call on Saturday night at 10 o'clock and willing to service you with the hospital papers and how to go about it. At that time, the patient is anyway in so much trauma, the family is in traumatic condition, and there's nobody to literally guide. Even when you approach the hospital TPAs, they're not very friendly. You have to do all kinds of documentation. You try to call up the call centers, you don't get the lines. I mean, there's so many roadblocks actually. It's not an easy thing for a customer. So I think there's a clear need for special advisors maybe who can understand clients' problems and guide them across plethora of products actually, which is right product for.
Isn't that what you are though?
But again, the problem with IRD is that as a you can only become an agent of one particular company. Yes, you can't advise across insurance companies, which is very bizarre, to me.
I want to begin. Sriram Khanna, Managing Editor of Consumer Voice. Mr. Khanna, thank you for joining us. We're talking about health insurance and the fact that there is a huge, what I would like to call trust deficit problem between customers of health insurance and the companies. And it almost seems like the entire system is tilted to the benefit of the company and not the customer. And the person who regulates all of this, which is the Insurance Regulatory Authority, seems to be okay with it. They're not doing anything about it, Mr. Khanna.
Let's address the problem in its correct perspective. In the last 10 years, as a consumer organization, we have seen that claiming insurance has become less and less difficult. It remains difficult even today. But it is not as difficult as it was 10 years ago for two reasons. Firstly, IRDA has made a regulation that there will be a TPA to intermediate between the insured and the insurer. And at every hospital you will see a TPA counter. And once you go to the TPA counter, he will get in touch with the insurance company and he will get back. And if he has objections, if the insurance company has objections, then you have to be prepared to fight it. Let's understand one thing. The Constitution gives you fundamental rights, but they are not enforced until you fight for your rights and go to a High Court or a Supreme Court to enforce your rights. In the same way, the insured, if he is objected to on any ground by the insurer, then you have to fight it, which means you have to object to it, and really speaking, you have to be prepared to pay for all your bills from your own pocket, get the bills once you are discharged, and then go to the insurance ombudsman and fight for every penny. And let me tell you, in the last few years, the insurance ombudsman have been giving orders which are a delight to read in many cases. But you have to fight all the way. You have to fight by the skin of your teeth. You have to fight for every penny, and only then they give the money. And if you can't really persuade the Ombudsman, then you go to the consumer court. And consumer courts have now a plethora of judgments which have defined and narrowed the definition of pre-existing diseases. The insurers have been stretching the meaning of pre-existing diseases like elastic. Oh, you had blood pressure. That means you had a heart condition. How can blood pressure be related to heart condition? So courts have come down and narrowed down a pre-existing disease is under the consumer court's ratio descendis, which have come down from the Supreme Court and the National Commission, is whatever is visible and known to the consumer. If something I had in my body and I didn't know about it, it's not pre-existing disease.
Right.
So I agree with the statement made that a young person should get insured now. But let me tell you, you can buy an insurance policy until 65. I am 66. 1 month before I become 65, I bought a policy. Of course, in addition to my coverage from the CGHS. But I can buy a policy. Everybody may not give me a policy, but somebody will give me a policy.
Right.
And I also, pre-existing disease of 2 years. So, it is true that if you have a disease, you can't buy insurance and tell him that you must pay for all the diseases I had. That is unfair to the insurance company. I agree with that. But what is a pre-existing disease? Our courts have interpreted. The other thing I'm saying is, if there are problems like the autism or specific problems of other nature, then it is the job of the Insurance Regulatory Authority to address these problems and make a regulation that provides for insurance cover for all categories of patients.
In fact, we're going to write to the IRDA and ask them to reconsider this particular regulation. But from the sound of what Sriram Khanna said to us, Gajendra Kodari and Balwant Jain, it sounds like we have to buy the insurance policy. We have to pay the premium every year without missing the date. We have to pay 18% GST on the premium now as well. And then after we do all of that and we get the papers together, when we find ourselves ill and in a hospital, we have to then fight, and I'm quoting, fight by the skin of our teeth to get a claim. How unfair is that?
In fact, very true. I'd just like to comment on this. We as advisors, when we are advising to our clients also, at times we are also not confident that whether the full amount will be reimbursed. Companies, all these insurance companies look for any pretext. They say, okay, admission charges are not covered. These medicines are not covered. The syringes or IVs, these are all not covered. I says, look, these are all part of the procedure, but they have some funny clause, which says these things will not be covered. And many of these companies are not willing to go cashless. So if you go to, let's say, Breach Candy Hospital, and they'll say, okay, sorry, we are not tied up with this company or that company, and then which means you have to pay 2, 3, 5 lakhs from your own pocket, preserve all the bills, all the original documents, which runs into many copies, and then you have to apply for them, and after 10-15 days they'll deduct some 10-15% and then pay you the amount. So you have to kind of spend a lot of time into these things which are so frivolous.
In fact, I have a list here of things that are not covered by an insurance policy, any insurance policy, and it's shocking. It runs into pages. It says it has things like X-ray film, blood grouping, bandages, sterile injections, needles, syringes, IV injections, clean sheets of paper. This is such a urine container. There are so many things that it goes on and on and on and on. None of these things are covered by any insurance policy at all, and it does seem like an entire system that is tilted against the customer. Manas is on the phone line from Pune. Manas, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I think
Manas, we can't hear you very well. Would you try again, please, or should we call you back? Manas? All right, that's a bad line. We're going to...
I'd like your permission to raise the point. I must tell everybody here, including you and the other co-panelists, the IRDA has done one thing which no other insurance regulatory authority in the world has done. It has formulated standard terms which are relevant for medical insurance. And the standard terms have standard definitions. And every insurance company must use the standard terms that have been defined by the IRDA, so that every insurance company and the consumer are on the same page of what means what. Earlier, each company was inventing their new terms, and when the time came to pay, they were interpreting those terms as one thing and not the other. So a lot of information asymmetry, which causes consumer detriment, has been removed in the case of insurance. But still, if my consumer organization, Consumer Voice, based in New Delhi, publishes in its magazine, Consumer Voice, regular ratings of different insurance policies. You want a health insurance policy for cancer? We'll compare the 10 companies for you and tell you which is the best for you. You want one for diabetes? We'll let you know. You want one for elder people? We will let you know. So we are regularly rating and ranking the features of the different companies and their policies and publishing them in our magazine. Of course, an agent can only tell you about his company, but we as a consumer organization have taken this step to advise consumers on what brand is good for you in which situation. So if you want to know which brand or which insurance policy for which purpose is good for you, read Consumer Voice ratings, and our BFSI desk is doing this regularly. Every month we are publishing,
all right,
publish one or more. So it's a specialized field. No newspaper or magazine is doing that except us. Let me tell you that.
Okay, all right. So I give you the 5 minutes to talk about your magazine. Manas is on the phone line from Pune. Manas, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I think this is not just related to autism or rejection of claims. My daughter has Down syndrome, and we had a family float policy, which was, taken much before she was born. But when she was born, I to enroll her or registered her in that same policy. I knew that there could be some problems, so I actually voluntarily mentioned that she has Down syndrome. And at the same time, I also, gave all the documents from doctor that she doesn't have any other, problems like no lung problem, no heart problem, nothing else. It's just a condition she has Down syndrome. But the policy was rejected. That she was not even allowed to enroll in the policy.
Did you try to get an insurance anywhere else, Manas?
Sorry?
Did you try to get her insured with any other company?
Yes, I tried quite a few others, but there's no other policy. It's just now we have taken Niramaya. We are planning to take Niramaya, but now only I heard in your channel that maybe I can't even take Niramaya, it seems, because of the, it seems it's...
No, but did you go to the insurance ombudsman? Did you file a complaint against that company who rejected your application? You should have gone. Have you gone?
No, sir, I didn't go because I had, honestly, I didn't have that much of either resources or time to actually go back and...
You don't need resources. If you are aggrieved, you have to complain. And if you don't complain, you can't blame insurance companies.
No, we can't blame insurance companies. I'm sorry, Mr. Khanna, that's completely unfair. Right? To tell a parent who's already dealing, with special abilities, which means that it's a different school, it's trouble making friends, it's trouble finding place to play, it's trouble finding space for your children to learn things. Everything is different, and everything.
I disagree with you.
Everything is special. To expect that parent to then chase down the ombudsman, and I am fully aware of how long it takes to get an order out of the ombudsman, and then consumer court, which takes 4 or 5 years. That parent is not going to have the time. They're not going to have the time.
If the person who is aggrieved is not going to complain and fight for his rights, nobody else will. Will Times Now do it on this person's behalf? You tell me.
They may be, because this is not Times Now, this is Mirror Now, and we will do it on that person's behalf.
Mirror Now, will you do it? But the person has to do it himself. Justice cannot be delivered in sweet and chocolate boxes to people's homes. People have to fight for it.
Justice needs to be given to every individual in this country without having to fight for it. That's what a democracy is about.
I'm sorry. It is, even in USA,
go ahead.
You have to go to a court.
I think that is the reason that we are. I think that is the reason that we are here, because so that we can pick up the issue on a common media platform. Because see, every insurance company will keep denying every parent, and every parent just can't go and knock on the consumer court. Because otherwise consumer court will start accepting millions of applications.
I am saying only insurance ombudsman. You don't need a lawyer. You have to just go to the ombudsman and forget about it. He will deal with it on his own.
How often does the insurance ombudsman actually give an order, and how many complaints are pending with the insurance ombudsman?
No, I think you deserve to do a program on how the insurance ombudsman is working. Invite the insurance council, invite the insurance ombudsman, and let's have a debate with them. And they will tell you what they are doing, and I think they are doing a good job.
Anand Patwardhan?
Well, I think ombudsmen are doing a good job, but then they have their own limitations. In many cases, I've seen it's beyond their jurisdiction, and the matters have been returned, and those matters have to come to the consumer fora. While the ombudsman is trying to do its job, I'm not sure whether they are really doing it. In the requirement of ombudsman that we have is probably not being complied.
Let me also point out to you that according to a report from Money Life, Mumbai has not had an insurance ombudsman for the last 18 months. the insurance ombudsman has not been appointed in the city of Mumbai for the last 18 months. And this is allegedly the financial capital of the country. And we have not had an ombudsman for 18 months. So we could have an entire discussion on whether or not the ombudsman is doing a good job. I sort of know which way that discussion would go. Subramanian, I beg your pardon, is on the phone line from Kolkata. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening to all of
you. Good evening.
This business of insurance is more to the benefit of the insurance companies rather than to the insured. The policy papers are so complicated and so voluminous. By the time you finish reading page number 1, go to page number 2, you forget what you read in page number 1. And this is where the insurance company plays. They put conditions in such a way that one does not even read and one does not even remember if he has read it. And the cumbersome process of going through a claim is mind-boggling. As it is, the patient undergoes the trauma being in the hospital, undergoing the treatment, the patient and the family members. And added to that is the running around with the insurance companies and making a claim. And definitely the question of cashless is not there at all. It is not at all cashless. The patient has to shell out a sizable amount of money in spite of taking the insurance policy and paying a premium through the nose. So definitely a lot needs to be done in this sector. We have all those authorities, IRDA and all, monitoring them, but not much has been done, and a lot has to be done to make it more, policy holder friendly rather than the insurance company friendly.
Also, I think one thing which I want to really highlight is that we understand that, what we are really fighting against is a blanket ban. I mean, I think even if we parents, we understand that, okay, do not pay us for the medical bills related to the autistic or the mental problem, but at least cover us for the other problems. But what we get from the insurance companies is a blanket no, that no, even a single of a mental issue and we will not give you insurance for anything else. I think that is where the pain is. We understand, we are ready to take the other part. We are ready to, underwrite that other part on our own. But at least give us the protection and the insurance to cover the other emergencies. Even that is, that is declined to us. I think, and that is a bigger issue out here.
So
but have you tried to complain to the
Ombudsman? All the insurance companies to mandatorily introduce policies which are available. Let them price it according to their costing. Let them arrive at their own costing. So the consumer will anyway go to the cheapest provider. Yes. But at least this should be available to the needy people. It should be
yes, absolutely. Narayan is on the phone. Yes.
Across a policy which LIC had introduced for special children, and that policy where the premium has to be paid for 99 years. I mean, I just didn't understand how this policy would work.
And another dichotomy, Faye, is that most companies are gunning only after the group insurance business. There we have seen they are willing to cover your parents with existing illnesses. They pay the full amount. But when it comes to individual health insurances, they are reluctant. So they're looking for fatter premiums. They're looking for larger volumes, but they're not interested in individual customers. Particularly, they don't want to really go for the senior citizens at all. They're just looking for young people at 20 and 30s who can pay premium and not ask for any kind of refunds.
Narayan is on the phone line from Bangalore. Narayan, go ahead.
Madam, what I want to say is that insurance companies must be forced to announce how many claims in a month they reject, so that the percentage of claims rejected by each company will be known. I went to one of the very reputed cardiac institutes in Bangalore, got my surgery done. In the counter itself, that person said, "Oh my God, you are with this insurance, your claim will be rejected." Okay, I paid. I came back and they said, "You did not say you are diabetic. You did not say you are this." Okay, now the whole motive is this has become a share market, like which insurance company is smarter in telling you will not be covered for left side cancer, right side blood pressure. These people are just here out. Their whole attitude is wrong. These are people who are thinking they will make money out of somebody's agony. I mean, it's a whole leadership issue, and every insurance company fellow says there now we are controlled by IRDA. But when there is a traffic police, you are listening. What were you doing before? This has all stock market people thinking how to put people in trouble. I will see the attitude of their talkers. I mean, this is not the way. The attitude must be, let me look after people. And everybody is not medically very qualified to say what is what. All cardiologists are saying if you are diabetic, you will become a cardiac patient. Now they are saying if you are diabetic, we will not cover you for cardiac. I mean, this is too much.
So, you know, this is interesting what he's saying. He's talking about putting out into public your claims settlement ratio, which life insurance companies have to do. Do general insurance companies do it as well?
I don't think it's much abundantly available everywhere.
You know, this
but
information
it is a valid point that I think even these ratios should be out in the public domain. So that's a valid point.
This information is kept confidential, and it is the fault of the IRDI. They should put in their regulation that for every insurance company, every category of policy they are selling. You know, one insurance company is selling 20 kinds of policies. By category of policy, they should publish, the IRDA should publish what is the number of claims repudiated, what is the percentage of policies sold, what is the number of policies repudiated, what are the grounds of repudiation. They must give this information so that as a consumer I can examine and go to the company which is honoring its claims and avoid a company which is habitually rejecting claims. That information is not available.
Mr. Khanna is right, because right now the only way to do that is to check with friends and family, saying what policy do you have. This is what people are normally doing. Tumhare paas kaun si policy hai? Tumhare paas kaun si policy hai? Did you get, did you have any trouble? And that's how people are buying policies, because there's no data. Whereas a life insurance, all life insurance companies have to mandatorily disclose their claim settlement ratio, which means that out of the 100% claims that they received, how many have they actually paid off completely? Which is how you can choose a life insurance policy, but that's not how it works in health insurance. Darshan on the phone line from Mumbai. Darshan, go ahead.
Yeah, my wife delivered a baby in March 2015.
Yes.
And the baby was premature and he had to be hospitalized to an NICU.
Yes.
And so immediately after the delivery, I had requested the insurance. I had updated the insurance company about for the claim within 24 hours, and they assured me that they would cover the baby for the sum assured, for the entire sum assured. Now, and this was, I confirmed them for two occasions. I spoke to two different people, and they assured me that yes. Now, eventually, for the last 2.5 years, my claim has not been settled. I went to IRDA. After a couple of responses, IRDA stopped responding. I contacted the Ombudsman. There was nobody to pick up the phone at the Ombudsman's office. I wrote umpteen emails, no response. For the last 2.5 years, I have been fighting this case in the Consumer Forum. It is a very tedious task to register a case at the Consumer Forum with a lot of documentation work. And the thing is, the insurance company denies me the call recordings. Now, in this case, even when I went to the Consumer Forum, they say, the Consumer Forum told, it is an insurance company, it is not some telephone recording company which can get you there. So I have no evidence to prove that they had assured me the claim. Now, for almost, I have incurred a bill of close to 4 lakh rupees, and it is not settled yet.
Anand Patwardhan, what is the best way to do this?
Well, I think he is already before the Consumer Forum, and though Consumer Forum is asking for evidence, I think there can be a way, because every phone call that is made to a TPA or any phone call that is made to maybe an insurance company also gets recorded. You can very well ask for that recording.
But actually, so here's my question, Anand Patwardhan. All insurance policies are contracts between the customer and the company. Can that contract be overridden by a phone call with someone in the company? If the contract says very clearly that children under the age of 90 days will not be covered.
The law is very clear. The law is so clear that no courts can even overwrite any contract. I think the Supreme Court is quite clear on that issue. Apart from insurance, any other contract between two persons, no court can override that unless certain clauses which are against public policy or against what can be a proper contract, unfair contracts, etc. But that concept is yet to actually come into our Indian system as well, so well as it is in England maybe. But that's a problem still. One can't overwrite any contract.
And Sriram Khanna, you said, of course, that the Ombudsman is the best way to do it. This person has been running around now for 2 years and has had nobody answer.
Somebody who goes to consumer court should be prepared. In the big cities, it will take you 3 or 4 years. In the smaller districts, where the number of cases is less, it might be done in 1 or 2 years. So if you go to a consumer court, but we as a consumer association, Consumer Voice never advises people who have problems with insurance companies to go to a consumer court in the first instance. We advise them to go to the Ombudsman, and our association also can file a case in the Ombudsman's, before the Ombudsman on behalf of consumers. We do that all the time. If you don't get a good judgment from the Ombudsman, then you have to go to the consumer court as a last resort. But what is being said today is, why should people have to go? Why can't the relationship become smooth? Why don't things happen on their own? The answer to that is, all the insurance companies are the people who have invested money, who want to make money out of this. They are not doing charity. They are collecting premiums, they are paying some claims, and the rest of the money is for their Mercedes and for their employees' salaries and for their club bills. So you can't say that they are doing charity. So let's be very clear, we are dealing with greedy people here who are wearing nice suits. They are insurance companies, and they have to be kept in check by the IRDA. IRDA, unfortunately, has not been doing a great job, because the bureaucrats who retire from government are appointed in the IRDA. They have no incentive or motivation to listen to consumer complaints, change the rules and regulations to such a way that it becomes the way we are talking. And you try to talk to them, it's sometimes even difficult to talk to them until you have been a bureaucrat yourself and worked in some part of government and you knew them. They are not even having a proper dialogue with the consumer associations. They have a dialogue with the insurance companies. There are insurance councils in the life as well as general councils which have been set up where all the problems of businessmen are discussed. But they don't have a forum to discuss problems of insurance consumers. And that is my accusation against the IRDAI and the Ministry of Finance, Department of Financial Services, that you are ignoring the interests of consumers of banking and financial services. You are worried about what will happen to the banks, the NPAs, what will happen to the insurance companies. Ministry of Telecommunications is worried about what will happen to telcos, but nobody is interested about what will happen to the consumer and the detriment he faces as a result of unhealthy and unfair trade practices of these insurance companies, banks and telecom companies. I think the consumer is getting the short end of the stick, and it is the government that does not have a consumer policy. Narendra Modi's government does not have a consumer policy. The Consumer Protection Bill 2015, which was introduced in 2015, and not seen the light of the day in 2017.
Right.
This is the attention the Narendra Modi government is paying to consumer problems and consumer detriment and consumer problems that are being faced. And whatever we are discussing is not a part of any policy of the government. They should have a consumer policy and address all these issues, which they have not done.
But that's also because, Shriram, the consumers that you are talking about who buy banking products and insurance products are middle class, invariably salaried. Nobody cares about the middle class salaried Indian because we don't form a large enough vote bank to matter to anybody. Vipin on the phone line from Noida. Vipin, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Faye, I must congratulate you for being completely opposite of what Times Now is and actually taking the issues that are really relevant. And I just wanted to tell you about, I have been suffering from something called ankylosing spondylitis, which is an autoimmune disease. And the problem is that I already have an insurance with Apollo Munich. Apollo Munich, I've been carrying the insurance for more than 7-8 years now. And I talked to them, I was diagnosed about 10 years back. And I checked with them and they said they do not cover any autoimmune diseases. Now, for no fault of mine, my MRIs, my scans and whatever therapies I would have to go to, and worst possible scenario, maybe the surgery, is now not covered despite paying premiums completely on time and not even having taken even one claim. So I just want to know why autoimmune diseases, which are of no fault of mine, are basically not covered, and we do not have any option through this. And there is a person representing consumer right. If you could help me, suggest me any policy that I could maybe change to, or like portability we have for insurance, just like telecom.
I would like to suggest to you to make a complaint to the Insurance Ombudsman. Consumer Voice, based in New Delhi, can give you guidance and advice on how to make the draft the complaint, and you have to sign it yourself and send it to them. You do that in the first instance. We can also help you create a memorandum which the Consumer Association can present to the IRDA and the Ministry of Finance. You see, let me also tell everybody here, even outside temples, there are queues and people are taking flowers and fruits for God. And then
But God doesn't charge an annual premium,
No,
sir.
please understand. Even God doesn't listen if you shout,
With GST.
if you don't go with these things. So if God doesn't listen, how you can make insurance companies listen without complaining? Please understand, you have to make noise in a democracy. If you are quiet, it's not going to be heard. Of course, if you are an anchor in a mirror now, they'll hear you. But everybody is not an anchor in mirror now. Please understand this.
Which is
if you are an individual citizen,
we open up this platform
you have to complain,
average
you have to
Indians.
fight for your rights.
We open up this platform to average Indians, to regular people like Satish, who's taken the trouble to come in today and talk about the problem he's facing. And we've had so many people call us on the phone line to talk about the fact that they're facing similar problems. We're going to collate all of this and get in touch with the IRDA and hope that the IRDA hears this problem. And I just want to take this now to the next level and talk about the fact that as Indians, and since we brought up the democracy, Mr. Khanna, we have a right to life, which the Delhi High Court has very clearly said also extends to a right to good health, which is arguably a fundamental right. Is it okay for an insurance company to say, no, we won't cover you, or no, we won't pay your bill? Anand Patwardhan, we can talk about the Ombudsman who has not come to office for the last 18 months, or we can talk about Consumer Fora, which takes about 4 or 5 years simply because it's clogged right now. People with refrigerators, cell phones and insurance policies and real estate now also go to the Consumer Fora. Don't we have a right to life? Don't we have a right to good health?
Of course you have right, and that right has been recognized as a fundamental right. Right to live with dignity as well. So I think that covers all kind of people and all kind of situations that a person would be facing is a fundamental right and recognized as one. But like Mr. Sriram Khanna has been saying, one has to fight for it. No one gives it to you on a platter. The insurance company and the very concept of insurance is a game of probability. I collect from so many people, how many of them would fall sick, how many of them would file a claim, how many claims can be rejected on some flimsy ground or the other, how many of them would go to the court, how many of those matters in the court would finally get a proper verdict in their favor. So it's all a game of probability, and that's how the whole business is running. So if we are facing a situation where people only know how to collect money and then wait, playing how one can avoid, I think we are not in the right spirit of what insurance cover should be and what can be achhe din to come, where every person has his cover for insurance and has a guarantee for being assured good health and good health services.
All right, I'm going to take one more question. Indira Iyer on the phone line from Thane. Indira, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I was just waiting for you to bring up this topic. Hello, can you hear me?
We can all hear you. Please go ahead.
This is regarding my friend. She doesn't want to come on the line. That is why I'm talking on behalf of her.
Yes.
She is 15-year-old. She had applied to Max Bupa. Blood tests were all normal. She had a fibroid. She was already into menopause. She had only fatty liver, which was reflected. In spite of that, Max Bupa rejected it. Okay, Max Bupa rejected, we can understand, but the thing was, when she wrote to IRDA, it is 6 months, they have not bothered to reply. To whom we will go? 15-year-old, she's a strong lady, she has never taken an insurance policy till date. She thought maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line, she may need a knee surgery. Because of that, they just rejected it on the basis of that. And I myself spoke on behalf of her to IRDA to one of the person. He just said, see, every company has their own policy, but I will look into it. But you should apply to another insurance company. Why will she pay she will go to another insurance company. They will also say the same thing. I mean, what is the use of going to IRDA? This is what I wanted to ask. I was waiting for this topic to come on the channel. What do people like her do?
I'd like to
I just want to take this question to Balwant Jain. Balwant Jain, this is a very good point, and I've tracked insurance now for over 15 years, and we've been asked this question since that very point, since the first IRDA chairman took over, when they said, who are we supposed to go to? The Ombudsman was constituted, was always a problem. There's nobody to hear the problems of the insurance customer.
So I feel it is not only the insurance company who should provide the data for claims rejected, it is IRD also who should provide the data of how many queries were responded to and how many queries were not responded to. At least this will bring in transparency in their response to the average consumer.
Absolutely. Anand Patwardhan, the truth is that there are two problems here. I'm going to fundamentally stay with the first problem that we walked in with Satish brought in. the fact that children of special needs are not given insurance policies, which is completely ridiculous. So someone with autism or someone, and also these insurance companies can't tell the difference between autism and a pure learning disability and Down syndrome. They tend to club all of it together. Why can't someone like that get a simple insurance policy that will cover them if they trip and hurt their toe or need to go to the hospital because they have dengue, for example? The two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. There's an injustice there that needs to be fought. And there is an injustice in how the IRDA is even looking at its own business.
I think that's where the government needs to step in. Because I think for any business firm, well, if I'm going to receive a premium which is maybe just a few thousand rupees and give a cover for a lakh of rupees, whether that's going to be a profitable business or not is what's going to come to their mind is the first thing. But then I think it's for the government to step in, where you have such government undertakings, all these 4 insurance companies that we have, which should be providing cover for such kind of instances also, or such kind of problems also, because that is what is the duty of the government. Ultimately, these children also need to be cared for and also need to have proper medical care and medical cover if required. If they are not provided that, I don't think most parents can really afford without having a proper cover. And not getting that kind of cover is not for the insurance to decide, but maybe for the government to really come up strong and come up with these policies. I think some time back we had, why don't you gift your sister a certain amount which she can pay for a premium and get cover for 1 lakh or 2 lakhs of rupees. I think that kind of concept that the new government had come up is necessary for such instances where you have these kind of children which need special care.
A lot of times, a lot of these things are just they're catchphrases, they're lip service, but there are real problems that need to be looked at, which take time and energy on behalf of government agencies, which we haven't seen happen yet. You had one last thing to say, Mr. Jain, before I... Slipped your mind. All right. We're going to continue to talk about this.
So, like RBI directs banks to lend minimum percentage of their lending as a priority sector lending.
Yes.
So, likewise, the instructions on the similar line can be issued to all the insurance companies to issue minimum percentage of number of policies to these special cases.
Right. So there is, if I'm not mistaken, there was some sort of rule that mandated that insurance companies get a certain amount of business from rural India and not from urban India, because most of their business was coming from urban India. They found a way around it. So they would go to the outskirts of Thane, for example, and categorize that as rural India. But you're right. Even special cases like these should be categorized as priority sectors.
Yes. So, I was in UK. In UK, you have something like basic stakeholder product, which may not be of higher amount, but like 2-3 lakhs kind of rupees, which can, at a reasonable cost, can be provided for all kind of cases. So it doesn't, cost company as much, but it can have a larger coverage. So I think this can be really applied at a mass level.
Yes. All right, we have to wrap up this conversation. I just want to remind our viewers about one thing. First of all, we will take this fight to the IRDA and further to the Finance Ministry if we have to. Remember how we fought against child locks in cars? We're going to fight in a similar manner to make sure that children and people of different abilities are covered by insurance companies. It is a battle that I promised to take up personally, and our channel will back it, and we will make sure. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but we'll make sure that we see this through to the end. A word of advice for all of our viewers. Insurance companies, banks, life insurance guys, credit card guys hate smart customers, because smart customers read the fine print, and smart customers outread the insurance company and the bank and the credit card company and the loan company. If you were to just read everything, and I know it's annoying and it takes time, you will outsmart these companies, and there is no better way to annoy them than to know their business better than they do. Let's promise to read all the fine print, to read all of the emails that come from the banks, to read all of those letter flyers that come from the banks, because they bury details in those letters and emails and fine print. And you can find that buried detail. You would be a customer that would not only get the service that you paid for, but in fact also perhaps in some way bring some justice to the system. It is an extremely unfortunate system that neither the SEBI nor the IRDA nor the RBI seem to care very closely about customer rights at this point. And it will be our job to bring their attention to customer rights, because somebody needs to look after the salaried middle class Indian. That's what this channel was launched for. We will continue to look at issues of the salaried middle class Indian on this channel. Thanks for watching. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll talk about what situation allows male policemen of Uttar Pradesh to go into a girls' college and lathi charge the children there. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere.